The Rise of Kingdoms commander meta has been changing a lot over the past couple months, especially with the release of the new archers, and I've done an open field tier list and an investment tier list, so it is time I make the ultimate tier list for this new release of commanders. Today I'll be making the overall commander tier list to tell you which commanders are the overall best in the game, the best on the field and the best investments, all combined into one. So if you're interested in trying to figure out which commanders are overall the strongest in Rise of Kingdoms and who is the literal best commander in the game, you want to stick around till the end of the video. Now let's start off by quickly saying, how am I going to decide which commanders are overall the best in the game? And also, Ragnar will not be on this tier list because he technically isn't out yet, so I don't really want to mess around with him. But in terms of every other commander in the game, I'm pretty much going to decide based on two factors. A, what is their investment like? Are these commanders easy to invest in? Are they really hard to invest in? Do I think they've got a lot of investment potential? And B, what is their current field strength and possible future field strength? So we're going to look at those two aspects. Of course, I'll take other things into consideration. Personal opinions about commanders could come a bit into play. This is a personal tier list. But of course, other people's opinions as well, things I've been told in comments, all that stuff will come into play as well. So really, I'm trying to make this tier list a culmination of absolutely everything to truly decide which commanders I think are the best in the game and which ones I think are not so strong or have become weaker over the last couple of months. With that being said though, let's switch over to the tier list. So now here is the tier list, and you may notice that it does have an extra tier. This tier kind of came in with the previous investment list that I made, and I do think it is a nice tier to have. It's a tier between the good and a tier between those near the top commanders. It's really for commanders who still have some value, but they're just not the most overpowered in the game. So I find that it is going to be quite a good tier for a lot of commanders that were released probably around 2 to 3 years ago. With that being said though, the other 5 tiers, we've got the best. Obviously these commanders are the strongest in the game. There is no one even near them. You got near the top. These commanders could be candidates for the best, so they're not the worst commanders. They're definitely close to the best. Sometimes they will be the best commanders in the game, but I don't think they have as much value as some other commanders do overall. Powerful, we already spoke about. Good, these commanders, they can work, but they're not going to be your best options nowadays. There are a lot more stronger commanders than them. Bad, I mean they're bad and never matter again. These commanders absolutely suck and there'd be almost no reason to consider them. Good example would be someone like Charlemagne. If you even consider Charlemagne, you must be smoking something. The first commander on today's list though is Gorgo, and I can put her in the powerful. I mean, she's decent on the field. She's not as good as Alex, a lot of people say, but she is decent for a second infantry march with somebody such as, let's say, possibly you could go with a William, possibly the Scipio Aemilianus. She'll be good with them. She's also good with Lil Chair, but Alex is better. Speaking of Lil Chair, best in the game in my opinion, probably the literal best. The only arguable, maybe better commander would be Zhu Lang, but in my opinion, I think that Liu Che is probably a little bit stronger nowadays. Ethelfled, she's good. She's not really that amazing, but she's definitely not bad. Nevsky, I'm putting near the top. Everyone still says that he should be in that best tier because he is the most powerful cavalry, but cavalry are kind of mid now, and there's new cavs coming soon. You just cannot justify investing in a Nevsky when we'll see new cavs in maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 months at the max. And if you get him expertise and then some new commander shows up who's ridiculously overpowered, it's kind of like you get a bit screwed over. So I can't justify putting him in the best tier. I don't think he's ever going to return to there, even if the new cavs are bad. Because while he is a good commander, he just isn't ridiculously overpowered. It just wouldn't make sense. Alex, I'll put him powerful. He's really good Lil Chair. He's a decent overall open field commander. He just isn't absolutely meta breaking. Attila, he's a good commander. I think he's decent in rallying. I think he's decent on the field. And he's got an okay relic, so you can't really go wrong with him. Belisarius Prime, he's near the top. There's definitely some better commanders, but he's got a lot of utility for 5 March murder balls. He's a decent cav commander overall, and I do see his strength on the open field. Xiao Xiao, he's pretty bad, only really good for KVK 1 and 2 if you invest in him then, or for barb farming in the later KVKs. Chandragupta also bad, not the most overpowered nowadays. His debuffs are a bit outclassed, and his damage is certainly outclassed. Charles Martel is going to be like the bottom of good. He's okay on the field. He's a pretty good city garrison. He's amazing KVK 1 and 2. So he's got some situations where he can be used, but he wouldn't be my number 1 choice for a commander. CJ, same thing, good. He's like okay. He's a horrible investment. Investment is like down here, but in terms of field strength, he's like barely usable. Cleopatra and the other 3 gathering commanders, purely because they do serve some purpose outside of just open field fighting, as some other commanders do, I will put them into the bad tier. So I'll put all the 3 gathering commanders there. They are just worthy of that position because they do serve a purpose for your account. You can gather with them. They're really easy to access. And I mean, they're really, you get them for free. I wouldn't put gold ads into them, but they're good for that free situation. Constantine, he can go into good. He's a good garrison. He's good in Canyon. So I do think overall he's a decent commander. Gilgamesh, probably the same situation. I've seen him get a bit of value against the new archers. He's not an amazing investment, but he's an okay rally, I think, against the current archer garrison that heals. So you can't go wrong with him. He's not going to be overpowered. He wouldn't be my go-to rally, but he just is one of the options. YSS is not a good garrison nowadays. Zenobia, she's a decent garrison, but she hasn't got really much future potential as a garrison. There are better garrisons now, and I think she's going to fall off pretty damn soon. Edward is rubbish since you can only use him in 1 KVK and he sucks after that. El Cid is rubbish. Eleanor, she's an okay garrison for what that's worth. She's good in pass, so she's good in forts, but she isn't the absolute meta. Frederick, I would invest in him. Khan, maybe as a bad choice for KVK2, but he's not a go-to. Hannibal Barker is bad. Harold, I'll put him in good. I'll consider maybe putting him in powerful. I just don't think it is worth it at that point, or at least this point nowadays. He's alright. I mean, you can put him with pretty much any infantry commander and he's going to be decent, but he just isn't going to be the most overpowered in the game. Honda, also good. I mean, he's a really good general commander. You can put him with pretty much anybody, but he's a really bad investment nowadays compared to a lot of the higher up commanders. Bertrand is usable on the field. Same thing with Artemisia. She did get a relic just as I'm recording this. It doesn't look that good though. I mean, it's going to be okay. I don't see it being horrible, but I don't see it making her meta again. At the best, she could maybe be at the bottom of the good tier. I'll put her there just because she has a relic, and right now, her relic would be a good purchase. But in terms of overall future utility, I'm just not 100% sold. Suleiman, I don't care about. Cyrus, I'll put him in bad. There's better. There's worse commanders. He did also, I'm pretty sure, get a relic, but he's just not that amazing, especially in the current meta. I did just do a quick double check. He hasn't got a relic yet, so I definitely would leave him in the bad tier. I'm not sure why he hasn't got a relic. I'm pretty sure Cyrus and Artemisia released at the same time, or maybe it was Ramses. I don't know, either one. Cyrus, no relic, so he's just not that amazing. Guan Yu, I'd put in powerful. He's got a good debuff, he's got good damage, but he's not a very good investment, and he's really super squishy. And I think Ragnar, future potential, could impact Guan a lot. CPO, because Ragnar is coming into the game now, I think he's near the top. He's a near the top investment and a near the top field commander, purely because he can pair with Ragnar. Pakal, I'll put him in good. He's decent with Harold. He's not the best infantry march. He's definitely not a go-to, but he isn't horrible. Leonidas, I don't care about. Nebu is worth, I think, putting towards the end of the powerful tier, because he can work for 3 archer marchers. He can work for 2. He wouldn't be my 100% go-to nowadays, though, but he'll be pretty much the final commander for this tier. He'll be all the way at the end. Joan, I'm putting in the best. I still think she's a better choice than Nevsky now, just because she's got AoE, and that means she has a bit more future potential. When the new calves come out, she could get ranked down, so do keep that in mind, but I still think she's near the best for that double AoE. Does that mean she's overall more valuable than Nevsky in terms of some open field situations? No, but does it mean I think she's better? I still do think she is a better option just right now. Jan Ziska, I'll put him in good. He's a good garrison for what that's worth. He's just not at that meta breaking. Caesar, I'll put him in bad. He only really works with Hache Bing as an early choice or Zhang Yu, but he just isn't going to be absolutely crazy. Lubu, we don't care. Mehmed, pretty much the same as Honda. Minamoto, I'll put into good as well. Good early choice for the game. Obviously, you can just buy him and you don't have to spend any gold heads on him, which is a win. And you can use him in KVK 1 and 2. Mulan, and I'll put also Trajan. They're good in Canyon, so they're worthy of the good tier, and they're usable on the open field. They're not as good as having 7 DPS marches nowadays, but they are good for Canyon. They're decent on the field, so I mean they do get that good ranking purely because of that. Ditto, she's a good garrison with CY, which I just recently learnt, so she can go into the good tier for that garrison meta. Ragnar, I mean, he's going to go into bad. He's not that good. Actually, I'm going to put him in never meta. I mean, you'd rather just get a Takeda if you're going to get him, and there's no use for him in KVK 1 and 2 because he's not that OP. Ramses going to go into the, I want to say never meta either. He's just not strong enough for me to justify running him. and he isn't near some of the stronger archer commanders in the game. Richard, good for AoE farming, so if you get him to 5, 1, 1, 1, 1, he's worth it, but there are better commanders out there for AoE. Like, I'd rather just get a Shajar over a Richard, because she is going to heal more overall, at least from personal experience. Saladin, he's probably also a bad commander. He's okay against the new archers, so if you need a 1v1, I guess you could use him there. But other than super niche situations, I wouldn't really be busting out a Saladin. Flavius, very, very mid garrison nowadays, definitely not the meta one. Boudica and also probably Henry, I'll put them both into the powerful tier. They're good. I mean, Boudica's debuff is still decent. She's definitely still within the top 2 to 3 archer marchers, similar to Nebu, but she just isn't the strongest in the game by a large margin, and she is not absolutely meta-breaking, so I think powerful is a good position for her, and Shajar is kind of just a better choice. Moctezuma, nobody cares. Zulang, though, definitely one of the best commanders in the game, arguably tied for Lil Ches spot. Don't really know if I could place him above or below accurately, so I think that he's just up there with the best commanders. Tariq, he's a very strong infantry commander, but just not as strong as some of these powerful commanders. Hao Bing, near the top. I mean, he's a really, really good solid primary. He's got very fast rage, and I'm going to be honest, out of all the commanders, I take the most Hao Bing active skills by a very large margin. Heraclius, good. He's a good garrison with pretty much anyone, so he's a worthy choice. Sargon's also good in my opinion. I would say that he's a strong, powerful commander overall in the field. He's got maybe some rally potential. I wouldn't put him up there with a crazy rally, but you can get away with it. And he's overall a decent commander. Justinian, similar situation. Decent rally, decent field, okay investment. So I think he's worthy of the good as well. Thutmose, I hear a lot of good stuff, so I'm going to put him in the bad tier. I know I said good stuff, so you think he'd go in good. He's just a really poor investment. Like, for 690 heads, I'd rather pretty much get anyone else, but if you have him from the gold chest and you have his relic, you might as well run him. Similar situation with Pyrus. If you have him and his relic, you can definitely get away with running him for a little bit of free value. The ranged commanders, I'm going to put them all into powerful. If you're willing to invest into them and you're willing to run the marches, they're going to be strong. So if you want to get any of the full range commanders, they're overall, I think, powerful. In some niches, they can be near the top or the best in the game. I think I rank 2 of the range commanders at near the top for both my investment and open field list, but overall I think they are just probably in the powerful tier, because you have to consider equipment costs a lot when I'm making this tier list, and the fact that they are range commanders. We don't know, there are new range commanders coming very soon, sooner than cavalry, so we could see something better or something different, so that's why I would just consider leaving them at powerful for now. So range commanders powerful, probably a good overall position. Herman Prime, I'd put him at the best. He's got AoE, he's got the best debuff in the game, you definitely can't go wrong with him. Asher Bunnypal, probably the bottom of near the top, really good for 2 archer marchers, but I would say slightly weaker than CY in that regard. Scipio Melianus, probably towards the bot or the top of the good tier. I mean, he's good, just not absolutely meta-breaking, and there are better commanders. William Wallace, I'll put him near the top. Field strength, he's near the top. Investment, I'd say, is close to the best tier just because he is brand new, and the fact that I think we'll see a lot more Smite infantry very soon. So near the top is a good spot for William. I just think that he could actually get moved up to the best once we see the next infantry cycle, but I think this is a good position for him right now. Shajar, same case. Near the top is probably the best spot to put her, just because she is a good archer commander, but she does lack pairings, and if she gets a slightly better pair, I could see her getting a rank up, but for now, I think near the top is a good position. CY, I'll put him in powerful with Nebu, really good for 2 archer marchers. I still think that CY with Shajar is the second best archer march in the game, but it just isn't absolutely meta-breaking. So if you're going to run it, you can get away with it, it'll be strong, but it wouldn't be my 100% overpowered go-to. It's just a good second march for now, and not to mention CY is a bit of a poor investment, because generally MGE commanders are not the best. If we look at the best commanders and near the top, not a single one of them besides Ashurbanipal is an MGE, and he's probably going to get moved down within the coming list. Not to mention he's a garrison. Generally, garrison commanders typically do perform weaker on the field just because they're made to be in a structure, and his best pairing is Shajar, who I think is going to get new pairings once we get a new cycle of archers. So he's a bit of a risky choice right now, but he is arguably within the top 2 archer marchers. I would say he's the 4th strongest archer commander currently in the game, but in terms of investment, he's definitely not going to be one of those best commanders. Amanatori, I put her in bad. You can get away with her as a city garrison, you can get away with her as an open field march, but only if it's a really, really niche account. She definitely wouldn't be a go-to. Takeda, also bad, only good with Attila, but if you get him with Attila, it is a beast of a march, so that is a good thing for it. Theodora, never would use her. Tilmyrus, probably never. I wouldn't really see her being in a bad. It just doesn't make sense. Never met her again is definitely her better position. William, I think he's a powerful commander overall. He's got a lot of field utility. I still do see him run a lot on the field. And if you don't have someone like Belisarius Prime, you can get away with William. Would I say he's the strongest cav? Definitely not. But I do think that he is a decent cavalry commander and he's worthy of that powerful tier. Wuzetian, nobody cares. And then Zhang Yu, I'd put him in the good tier. He's a good commander overall. And finally, YSG, probably also in that good tier. He's a good commander overall, just not the best investment, especially now that we have seen new archers who have pretty much replaced him within that top 2 murder ball, and definitely within the top 3, he has lost a little bit of value. Other than that, this is the tier list. I'll quickly reorganize it and we can do it fully in order. Alright, so this is the tier list reordered. I reordered the top 3 tiers. I didn't touch good, bad, or never met her again because these commanders are super niche. It's super hard to rank them against each other. Since, for example, I'd use YSG if I had an Archer March, but if I didn't have an Archer March, there'd be no point getting him, and I'd rather just go and get someone like an Attila if I ran a Cav March. Or if you're a Rally main, you'd probably get Attila over YSG, or you'd get Scipio over YSG. So it's hard to rank these commanders in the good, bad, and never met her again. Well, never met her again doesn't matter, and bad doesn't really matter, but the good tier is super niche. It's only for some super unique accounts or accounts in weird positions who would consider even using them. But if you do have those commanders, they're kind of hard to rank against each other. Obviously, I think the garrison commanders in terms of field potential would be towards the bottom. I think I put Eleanor up here just because she is a good garrison. But in terms of stuff like field strength, etc., it's hard to rank these commanders with, or at least against each other, for how diverse they are and the account scope they could be used for. They could be really good for one account and really bad for another, just depending on what you are doing with them and how you are running them. Other than that, though, the best commanders, I would say this is the best here. Liu Che and Zhu Lang probably tied for the top. Herman and Joan Prime, then our third and fourth. And then it goes from Scipio Africanus all the way down to a Shurbanipal being the worst of near the top. And then in the powerful tier, I think it goes Guan, Boudica, Alex, William, Henry, CY, actually I think CY is higher than Henry, CY, Henry, Gorgo, Nebu, and then all 4 range commanders if you do choose to invest in them. So that is my tier list for the top commanders in the game, fully ranked in order for what I think is overall the strongest stuff, including open field, outside of open field, so stuff like Sunset and Lost Canyon, and finally their future investment potential. That is what I considered today, and this is my final tier list for the month of October 2024. Now, if you enjoyed today's video or found it interesting, I'm going to ask you guys to please consider subscribing to the channel. It's a very small thing you can do, and it really does help me, as I like to constantly be updating and creating these tier lists. So if you like to see these tier lists where they put out all the commanders in their best positions in a nice, simple format, consider subscribing. I make one pretty much every single time there's a new big commander release. So if once we see Cavs, or maybe even once we see the ranged commanders, you will see a new tier list from me. So if you're excited to see more tier lists or more rankings and just finding out where commanders are sitting in the meta, I highly recommend subscribing. Other than that, I just want to say I thank you all for watching and I hope to see you in the next one.